Did you hear what they said about Bitcoin? Executive Director of Digital Assets Bo Hines said the US government may buy Bitcoin using tariff revenue. Is Donald Trump's plan to use tariffs to buy even more Bitcoin? Well, time will tell. Follow if you want to know what the 1% know. What I do know is that we are going to see $10 trillion enter the crypto market. Everyone is asleep right now. When we have crypto regulation, because according to Tim Scott, we should have it by August, trillions will be entering from institutions and banks in America. The crypto market is going to go from stagnant, boring, consolidating, correcting, to parabolic within days after the announcement. XRP Ripple investors, there are lots of meetings going on behind closed doors. This information is in front of you, but it is not being talked about. The SEC just had their first round discussion on DeFi, tokenization, custody, and regulation April 11th. The next meeting is April 25th. They are going to go all the way up until June 6th. Did you hear?
Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing salutations to the hopefully elect Tabernacle of David out there listening, learning, keeping the faith and diligence of our Lord Yahushai, occupying in the prophecies until all is fulfilled, and Lord will, we are redeemed. So we're going to start off right here in 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So as you saw in this opening clip right here, allegedly reports are coming out that Trump is using tariff revenue to invest in Bitcoin. And when you look at the whole global financial situation, it's really all over the place, because Trump really is putting these tariffs on these nations to try to divert them from getting away from the use of the U.S. dollar, because quiet is kept. There's a global boycott of anything American because of course, America's backing of what's being done in the land of Gaza, which is nothing more than a colonial genocide that's happening over there in that land. So the world is responding by these other nations coming together against the hegemony of the US dollar. And this is why you see that the stocks are up and down. This is why you see that pretty much businesses are laying off, they're closing down. Europe's banks, reports coming out, are going under. You see what I'm saying? So it's only a matter of time before it comes to America. So you have to ask the question, if Trump is using tariff revenue, allegedly, to invest in Bitcoin, you have to know this is what the replacement for the US dollar is going to be. Because before, Trump and his administration, America, let these nations get off the dollar, there is going to be war. And this is why you see that America is over there, along with the small hats. They're pressing for war against Iran, which once they go to war with Iran, of course, Iran's allies, protectors, Russia and China, are going to get involved. So this is going to lead to a third world war and also a global financial reset, okay, which we'll get into the article. This is exactly what we're moving into, all right? So let's check this out right here. Trump advisor wants to rewrite the global financial system. So we always go into these things, all roads lead to the MOTB. These devils are aggressively moving towards a complete digital technocracy, right, in which everything is going to be tracked and traced, and it's going to be tied to a carbon footprint, meaning that your life force is going to be measured, and they'll be able to pretty much control you based on how much life force that you use, carbon. All right, so it's going to be even more of an oppressive system than what you have in place right now, because they're actually going to be using biometrics, which is the measure of the body, using palm vein scans, iris, eyeball scans, hair follicles, DNA. All right, they're going to be using all these things to directly connect you to a social credit score, to a carbon footprint, so that if you don't abide by the rules and regulations of the NWO, then they'll be able to cut you off from buying anything, and there will be no loophole to get out of that, all right? Because it's going to be tied to you, who you are. So this is what we're moving into. A key advisor to President Donald Trump is pushing for a significant restructuring of the international trade system, arguing that the current framework disproportionately disadvantages the United States. And that's all BS, because America has the highest GDP of any nation on earth, probably other than China. All right. America is a big consumer nation. They, import goods from all over the world, but they produce very little. All right. So really all these sanctions that he's putting on these nations, claiming that America is being ripped off, that couldn't be farther from the truth. And as a matter of fact, if you really want to look at it, these other countries are being ripped off by America. All right. Because, Trump has put something in place called a retaliatory tariff, when a lot of these countries that he's tariffing don't even have tariffs on America. You see, so this is all, a cunningly devised plan by the devil to, make these Americans pretty much go bankrupt, crash this current system, and set up this global financial order. All right, that's going to be backed by a crypto digital currency. See, Peter Navarro, a senior trade advisor, has called for a complete overhaul, right, of global commerce rules, claiming they have enabled foreign nations to exploit American markets while contributing to persistent U.S. trade deficits. Navarro's vision centers on dismantling what he describes as an unfair global trade architecture, particularly targeting agreements and institutions that he believes prioritize other nations' interests over America. The rules of global trade have been stacked against us for decades, Navarro stated in a recent interview, emphasizing that the U.S. must renegotiate or exit deals that fail to serve its economic goals. And really what's happening is that America's dominance, pretty much going around bombing any nation that doesn't want to get down with the American rule, because you have the BRICS. All these nations are joining themselves to the BRICS, and the BRICS currency, which is a digital currency, and they're also using their local, state currencies as well to trade, is actually backed by commodities, all right? And a lot of these commodities that Russia and China are getting are coming out of Africa. Okay, this is why Russia is guarding a lot of these African nations, because they're doing trade with the African nations to get gold and bauxite and silver and all these precious earth minerals, which Africa is rich in. Okay, that's why you don't really see Esau, even though the African nations are pushing out the Europeans. This is why their whole society is falling apart, because they can no longer rape, rob, and exploit the African nations, because Russia is giving them aid, all right? So now you see Europe start to fall apart, as well as the sanctions that have been put on them over the past few years. All right, so the Lord is systematically breaking the kingdom of these Edomites down, and they about to fall in the worst way. All right, but these BRICS nations, their currency is backed by actual precious commodities, while the American dollar is backed by nothing more than the American military, all right, which is also a joke and is breaking down as well. So we're in a time where there's definitely a shift, going away from the Western-led American hegemony over to the East, right? But these nations are all deceived, because they believe that Russia or China, they're going to be the heads of this new, this NWO, all right? But it's sadly mistaken, because it's going to be the Israelites, all right, under the rule of Yahweh Shai, that's going to have next to rule. None of these heathen, all right? This is their time to go down, all right? So in order to save themselves and set up, a complete totalitarian rule over the people, it's all going to be digital, all right? And the ultimate form of that is going to come by surveillance under the skin, which is going to come in the form of the RFID, Neuralink brain chip, or the implantable hand chip in the right in the right hand or in the forehead, as it is outlined in Revelation 13 and 16. All right. So these prophecies are coming together, man. It's only a matter of time before they pull the plug. And this is just me speaking as a man, but I believe that this real great reset is going to come in the form of a cyber attack blackout. There's going to be a grid outage. And from that, chaos is going to ensue. People not going to be able to get their money out the banks. Their 401k is going to be gone. All right. All everything these people have worked for is going to go down the drain. All right. It's going to be chaos for a little while. And then the answer to that is going to be, hey, well, once the grid comes back on, you're going to need a digital ID to access the internet. You see, you're going to need to get the MOTB in order to receive benefits to get back on your feet in this new world. All right, that's how they're going to cause people to opt into this new system, you see. So Esau knows what he's doing, man. But see, the hopeful elect, we're one step ahead of this devil, and we see exactly where he's going. All right, that's why we read 2 Corinthians 2:11, right? This, that Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. We see the wicked devices that this devil got going on, all right? But it's not going to prosper, because Yahweh Bashmel Shah has given us insight through the Spirit, to figure this man out. This is Psalms chapter 37 and verse 7. It says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way. And right now, it would seem as though Esau is prospering in his way. It would seem as though he's making moves, that he's about to get off his NWO. But what? Because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. Verse 10. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. Right? So this wicked man who bringeth his devices to pass is Esau. All right? And the only reason why his devices are coming to pass is because the Lord wants it that way to fulfill prophecy, and also because he's been given the power through the left hand. All right? So this is why Esau, he's moving forth, and it would seem as though to the carnal eye that there's no stopping this man. All right, he has diabolical weapons. He got a military. You know what I'm saying? His eyes are pretty much everywhere. So being in the flesh, it would seem as though there's no way to escape what's coming, right? But this is why we're going to call upon Yahweh Bashmil Shah. We understand that that's going to be our strong tower in that day when these things come to fruition. You know what I'm saying? So let's go here as well. Check this out. Blog: America's High Stakes. Reset of global trade power through tariffs and digital innovation. So this is all where it's going. And this was published, today's what, the 15th? This is published 2 days ago. All right. So digital innovation is what is coming to the forefront. This is why you see AI and robotics, at the forefront right now. You know what I'm saying? Because all these things are gonna, work in tandem in this great reset. You see? So we gotta get to the point here. Leadership in decline. 2018. Okay, let's start right here. It says, enter blockchain, a game changer Trump's team is betting on. Beyond crypto hype, blockchain offers tamper-proof ledgers for trade, slashing costs and fraud. Right, so that's another thing they continue to use is convenience and benevolency. Okay, they're putting this crypto out there as a viable means, as a reliable means to replace the corrupt, dirty, physical dollar, physical payment. Okay, which there can be fraud. Right, they're expensive to make. All right, remember when Trump first came in, Elon was like, yeah, well, we're gonna stop making a penny because it costs more than 1 cent to make the penny, so that's not efficient. Okay, that's the whole thing about the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, right? That they're trying to make the government more efficient, all right? And part of that, the part of their agenda is to cut out the physical use of money and make it digital, so that there's less of a in their words, a waste of resources, right? So this is what you're seeing here, right? Slashing costs and fraud. Imagine U.S. exporters using smart contracts to settle deals instantly, bypassing bloated bureaucracies. In 23, global trade inefficiencies cost 1.6 trillion annually. Blockchain could claw back millions, making U.S. goods hyper competitive. It's already happening. Walmart uses it to track supply chains, cutting food recall times from days to seconds. Scaled up, this tech could secure digital trade routes, much like navies secured shipping lanes in the 20th century. Blockchain also future-proofs finance. If the U.S. leads in tokenized assets, think digital bonds or blockchain-backed dollar, it could reinforce the dollar's reserve status against rivals. Pay attention right here, like China's digital yuan, right? Pair this with tariffs and you've got a 1-2 punch. Physical goods flowing out, digital dominance locking in profits. It's not just factories, it's coders and engineers rebuilding the middle class through high-skilled jobs, all right? So, once every, look, that's why the scriptures say that he's going to cause all, okay? Because it's going to come a point where people are going to lose everything. You know what I'm saying? And really, the middle class is being destroyed because they're cutting all these jobs. You know what I'm saying? The elder Hawad, he did a lesson. I was watching it earlier to where, they say 75% of Americans are without a job. So over 50% of the population is without work and can't get work because all the jobs are being cut. If you're trying to look for a job right now, it's very hard to get a job. You know what I'm saying? So they're cutting jobs. The stuff around you is getting more expensive. People are running out of options. They're running out of hope. So Esau is going to come in to save the day with his solution. The middle class has paid the price. Trade deficits accelerated factory closures. While automation and offshoring killed stable, unionized jobs, today the top 10% own 88% of U.S. wealth. The next 40% hold 12%, and the bottom 50% are in debt. See that? The wealth isn't gone, it's shifted to nations running surpluses with us. A digital shift like blockchain could help reclaim it, but more on that later, all right? So just know that this digital blockchain system is coming. All these nations are pretty much going digital. In this trade war between China and America, all this stuff is orchestrated. You know what I'm saying? You have to keep in mind that this is the theater of war. So there's a lot of theater going on. Okay, because we know these nations are working together on to a degree, but at the same time, it's to fulfill biblical prophecy. And there is beef between Esau and these other nations. You know what I'm saying? So it's all going to come to a head in World War III. And, but before that, the MOTB, the mark, is going to be rolled out. All right, so we just got to keep on watching for these things because these news reports continue to come out by the day. So, this thing is moving fast. All right, Psalms chapter 21. And let's get verse 21. And verse 8, it says, thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out those that hate thee. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Their fruit shall destroy, their fruit shalt thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. For they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device, which they are not able to perform. Okay, so these Edomites, all right, their seed is going to be destroyed from the earth, okay, pursuant to Obadiah 1:18, okay? But before, it gets to that point, these devils are going to move very vigorously, all right, with their mischievous devices. And this blockchain digital technocracy that they want to set up is a part of that mischievous device. All right, but what the scripture say in verse 11, which they are not able to perform. Okay, so they're gonna implement the MOTB, but they're not gonna be able to fully realize it. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna fully get it off the ground to where this is gonna be a way of life on the earth. You know what I'm saying? It's really Esau is only coming with this for the hour of temptation. You know, so this is going to be a part of that, the time of Jacob's trouble, and it's not going to be for some long drawn out period. All right, because the moment that this devil goes to implement the MOTB, that's when all hell is going to break loose, man. See, that's when nukes are going to start flying. All right, so we're not going to be here for too much longer after this devil implements the mark. You know what I'm saying? Once he do that, that's pretty much it, because the last two major prophecies we're waiting on is the MOTB and World War III. And once he do the mark, it's up. That's it. It ain't gonna be that much time left for this devil to rule. You know what I'm saying? Let's get Proverbs 14, and let's start at 14 and 10. It says, "The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger does not intermeddle with his joy. The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish." Okay, so the house of the wicked, man, and all his devices, right, it's going to be overthrown. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, call Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, all right, and the tabernacle of the upright, okay, which we are a part of, you know what I'm saying, which we hope to be of the hopeful elect, you know what I'm saying, to see the fall of these devils, man. You know what I'm saying? But we continuing to watch prophecy, we see that these things are right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? And this is increasing our faith. You know what I'm saying? So right now, brothers should be fervent in the spirit, continue to watch these prophecies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't let the cares of this life get you caught up and get you distracted. Because really, at the end of the day, the cares of this life is really nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, family, children, wife, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? All that comes second to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. You know what I'm saying? Because we try and be saved. You know what I'm saying? And the way this world is going, this thing is passing away quick. All right? So let's continue to watch out for this, MOTB prophecy. We're going to continue to bring it out, according to the spirit, man. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Call Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kadash. Until next time, shalom to the elect. Kum Yashala, Wa Ba Ba Shalom.